Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of the Boxing Source Radio Show, the September 5th, 2022 edition of the Boxing Source Radio Show. I am your host, James Bell, the leader of the Boxing Source on social media. Of course, you can follow us through Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We have, Facebook pages. We have the Instagram account. We have the Twitter account. Of course, we got the thing that's usually live on YouTube through the Boxing Source YouTube channel. And, we will also have this particular podcast available on whatever your favorite podcast app is. So just be sure to check that out. Okay. Now, we got a few things that we're going to be going through here in this particular episode. Of course, we're going to be, kind of like covering what happened yesterday, particularly with the main event. You had the main event over in, Los Angeles, whatnot, as you had Andy Ruiz Jr. and Ruiz-Ortiz facing each other in heavyweight division. And this was a fight that, I think that was about a year or so in the making. Andy Ruiz Jr., of course, former unified heavyweight champion, defeated Anthony Joshua on June 1st, 2019, and had a rematch over in December 2019 with Anthony Joshua. Lost, that particular bout to lose those titles. Tried to get himself back in the gear. Had a fight against Chris Arreola, where he kind of like changed trainers. He was with one trainer there, Manny Robles. That's who brought him up in the ranks. That's who had him contending for at the time a vacant WBO heavyweight title. A few years back against Joseph Parker, lost a close decision there, but then still was with Andy Ruiz when Andy Ruiz won the unified titles against Anthony Joshua. Then after Ruiz lost to Anthony Joshua, Ruiz kind of dropped Manny Robles and took on, hired the services of Eddie Reynoso. Had Eddie Reynoso with him, and he fought Chris Arreola. Won the bout, got dropped, but won the bout. And now he's not with Eddie Reynoso anymore. So you had three different trainers here, pretty much like three fights. Because after, the Chris Arreola fight, you had the instance where he had like an injury of sorts. And so he had been, on the shelf for a good little bit, So this fight that he had there against Ruiz-Ortiz was, pretty much his first fight in a while. They were supposed to fight last year to meet, after him fighting Chris Arreola. They were supposed to fight in 2021, but Andy Ruiz was injured, so he had to pretty much wait on this particular fight. Flip side, you had Ruiz-Ortiz, of course, who was a two-time WBC heavyweight world title contender, going up against Deontay Wilder twice. Being stopped by Deontay Wilder twice. And so, he's kind of like been up there back and forth within the top 10 or so in the heavyweight division. His last fight was against Charles Martin, January 1st of this year, where, as I say, that he knocked the sonic rings out of Charles Martin in that particular fight. And pretty much had Charles Martin discombobulated in order to score a stoppage win over Charles Martin. So this particular bout was trying to see if, who would kind of like stay up there within the top 5 or 6 in the heavyweight division, and to see if they would kind of like be within a world title shot sometime soon. So you had like a few things that were going on or at stake in this particular bout between Andy Ruiz and Ruiz-Ortiz. And, the first couple, the first round or so, kind of like seeing these guys kind of like feel themselves out. But the thing with Andy Ruiz Jr. Of course, he had the faster hands. He looked to be the more patient fighter in certain spurts when it came to offense. And then, he basically had the huge advantage, of course, in the second round where he was able to score the first knockdown in close quarters with the right hand over, pretty much on the backside of Ruiz-Ortiz, dropping Ruiz-Ortiz down pretty much, in a slump. And Ruiz-Ortiz was able to get up, but his legs weren't completely under him. So Andy Ruiz Jr. was able to score a second knockdown in the second round, due to Ruiz-Ortiz not being fully recovered from the first knockdown. So you had a 10-7 round there for Andy Ruiz Jr., and that had him with a big advantage. But I mean, to me, over the course of those next few rounds, you kind of like seeing a couple of instances where Ruiz-Ortiz wouldn't allow Andy Ruiz to completely get the momentum back. And you're actually seeing it within that second round, too, as Ruiz-Ortiz was able to catch Andy Ruiz square, with the left hand. And I think that was kind of like a message of sorts, because you really didn't see Andy Ruiz Jr. go for the gusto or whatever it is, after, those two knockdowns were scored. Those next few rounds, you kind of like seen him feeling out, Ruiz-Ortiz a little bit, not really getting himself in a gear, to try to take the momentum from Ruiz-Ortiz. And, with that being said, all you saw was like Ruiz-Ortiz kind of like throw the right jab, throw the right jab, throw the right jab, kind of throw in a left hand in a couple of occasions. But, with Andy Ruiz, he was in there throwing combinations, but it's not like, he has like a constant jab or something where he responds to the right jab of Ruiz-Ortiz with the left jab, or some type of a counter, So for me, the majority of that bout, you really didn't, I'm going to be honest, you really didn't see pressing action for the majority of that fight, because, like I said, after the two knockdowns that were scored by Andy Ruiz Jr., he really didn't carry over that momentum to those next few rounds. And so, yeah, it kind of like did look like Ruiz-Ortiz was kind of like controlling the pace of the bout. It's not like, Andy Ruiz is, he has a fast hands or tries to, see if he can get inside and has fast hands. But he is only like, it seems like he's only active when he's definitely in range of his opponent. Like, he doesn't really try to get himself into the inside with the jab. So he ended up like having periods of inactivity over the course of these rounds. And, for me, I thought it just gave the opportunity for Ruiz-Ortiz to start getting rounds here and there. And he did. At least to me he did. But in the seventh round, Andy Ruiz Jr. was able to score another knockdown. It was more of like him, scoring some big shots. So he was able to do that once again on Ruiz-Ortiz and have Ruiz-Ortiz down on the canvas once again. But, it wasn't like Ruiz-Ortiz was in serious trouble. It was just like a quick impact punch that just knocked the equilibrium off from Ruiz-Ortiz and put him down to the canvas once again. So it wasn't like something where it's like, bam, and then he goes flat to the canvas or something like that. No, it was just something that just, took down the equilibrium of Ruiz-Ortiz and had him down to the canvas. It was pretty much like similar to what happened, with Ruiz-Ortiz versus Charles Martin. And once again, you kind of didn't see Andy Ruiz Jr. completely take over the momentum from that knockdown. So it kind of like kept Ruiz-Ortiz in the fight. And so, with that being said, it just, kind of like had that same type of flow over the course of 12 rounds. They did actually go the full 12 rounds. And, for me, I was like, yeah, before the scorecards were read, I kind of felt like Andy Ruiz Jr. won the fight. But when the scorecards were read, the first scorecard that was read was 113, 112. Said unanimous decision. 113, 112. And two scores of 114, 111. So it was a unanimous decision for Andy Ruiz Jr. And I'm like, okay, yeah, Andy Ruiz Jr., won the fight. But with those scorecards, you had the three knockdowns. So wait a minute. I'm like, hold up. You had a 113, 112. And you had two scores of 114, 111. Three knockdowns means 3 points. So if you didn't have any knockdowns and you still had those scores kind of consistent on the 10-9, then the fight would have been a majority draw. So that meant that on two scorecards, both fighters won 6 rounds. And on one scorecard, Ortiz won 7 rounds. So I'm like, wow. So they felt like that fight was close enough to where the knockdowns made the difference in the fight. And I was like, wow. So that to me, kind of like says that, hey, this particular bout, I don't know, this is supposed to be, something to the, I would say to the extent of, where you kind of like say, hey, like what do we have as far as like who's in there in the heavyweight division? And these two guys are supposed, are pretty much like highly ranked in the heavyweight division or highly ranked in the sanctioning bodies like the WBC or the WBO. But what does this mean for, I'd say the heavyweight division when you have something like this happen as a result, and it's basically very close, outside of the knockdowns. For me, it kind of like goes into, the whole joint when it says like, where's to the point, that I thought you would have had something where Andy Ruiz would have been impressive enough to kind of like overwhelm Ruiz-Ortiz. That it would look like Ruiz-Ortiz would, kind of like be, he was a top contender. We had, those battles with Deontay Wilder, but at this point, it's, pretty much like it for him. But you really didn't see that. You really didn't see that coming from Andy Ruiz Jr. You didn't see him like say, oh, he'll overwhelm Ruiz-Ortiz and just blow out Ruiz-Ortiz in order to get a win, get a stoppage win, kind of like establish himself as a contender once again in the heavyweight division. What he basically did over the course of those 12 rounds was just like have Ruiz-Ortiz be competitive in a sense that, hey, like I said, it almost became a majority draw due to those scorecards. And you talk about a guy that is a former unified heavyweight champion, but has, in a sense, kind of like dwindled down a little bit when it comes to his overall performance since the rematch against Anthony Joshua, in Saudi Arabia. He had that lackluster performance in the rematch against Anthony Joshua. He had his performance against Chris Arreola, where, a lot of people kind of like felt like Chris Arreola was almost similar to Ruiz-Ortiz. Of course, a former world title contender that, had lost, bouts when he was fighting for the world title. And, of course, Chris Arreola had his bout with Adam Kalnacki, which was a, highly contested bout over the course of 12 rounds. So that opened up the door for him to face Andy Ruiz Jr. And Andy Ruiz Jr. ended up getting knocked down in that particular bout. And so now it's like, okay, you get through that bout, you get a decision win over Chris Arreola. Now what's next for you? Ruiz-Ortiz. Now it's like, hey, you get this win over Ruiz-Ortiz, but it's a unanimous decision that could have been a majority draw given the scorecards of how they were read. Now what's next for you? Now, of course, they talk about, hey, you have Andy Ruiz Jr. and you have former WBC heavyweight champion, the bronze bomber, Deontay Wilder, as a potential bout that could be in slate for 2023. And I mean, it's something that, I guess some people are looking forward to, but I'm like, ooh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about this because even in the state of how some people may think of where Deontay Wilder might be at this point, I would heavily favor Deontay Wilder in that bout. Heavily favor him, heavily, because one thing with Andy Ruiz Jr. and what I saw, what I saw in this particular bout, I'm like you kind of like seeing him be very vulnerable to a good number of shots, and to me that is kind of a concern, when it comes to being in the heavyweight division where big shots are plentiful, you know. So, for me, I'm like, if you have Deontay Wilder that's scheduled to face Robert Helenius October 15th at the Barclays Center, Deontay Wilder gets through that particular fight and wins. He could potentially face Andy Ruiz Jr. in 2023, pretty much around February, March of 2023, maybe February. I mean, Deontay Wilder said that he wants to be as active as possible, after this particular bout against Robert Helenius. Then the people who like really feel like Andy Ruiz is going to come through and give Wilder very competitive fight. I know that Andy Ruiz Jr. said, like, as far as like a potential matchup with Deontay Wilder, who was ringside in for this particular bout, that he said, like, if Wilder wins in October, me and him are with the same management team and we can make this fight happen. He's like, hey, he's ready. Let's do it. Let's get it on. I'm hungry and I want to be champion again and bring belts back to Mexico. And he also said, that he's willing and able to make that fight happen. And on the flip side, Deontay Wilder is talking about that he's back and he's looking for exciting fights for the fans. And if they say that Andy Ruiz Jr. is what's next, then he'll be ready to go if he goes and defeats Robert Helenius on October 15th. But for me, I think that that kind of like could shape what could happen in the heavyweight division going past the middle of 2023. Yeah, we did have recent news about the current WBC heavyweight champion that plans on continuing his career. So you are going to see like a few of these fights kind of like get positioned as to where who is going to be some of those top contenders there for the WBC. So I'm like, well, you could have this potential fight between Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz Jr. happening, but how would it kind of like shape or move the heavyweight division? That's the thing that I'm trying to figure out, is how this would kind of like say move the needle of sorts when it comes to the heavyweight division. And like I said, I mean, with Andy Ruiz Jr. kind of getting through this bout against Ruiz-Ortiz, and I'm saying, like, hey, if you are looking to try to be one of those guys that are among the best in the heavyweight division, then you got to be able to be impressive against guys like Ruiz-Ortiz or something like that, where you would say that Ruiz-Ortiz, like I said, has been a world title contender, but looks like he's on the back end of his career, where you are pretty much supposed to be within your prime of sorts when it comes to your professional career. And so, right now, I would say that Ruiz going up against Deontay Wilder, early 2023, man, I don't know. On the flip side, with Ruiz-Ortiz, Ruiz-Ortiz, of course, has had a whole bunch of experience. Now is there with a record of 33 wins and 3 losses. Of course, like I said, those 2 stoppage losses to Deontay Wilder, and then this unanimous decision loss to Andy Ruiz Jr. And so now it's like, okay, where does Ruiz-Ortiz go at this particular point of his career? That's a good question. Like, what would be a fight if he, if they continue to, continue his career? He says that he wants to continue his career. What would be a fight for Ruiz-Ortiz to have here at this particular point? Maybe it could be, maybe Robert Helenius, I guess, later on down the line, if Helenius loses against Deontay Wilder on October 15th. Maybe there's, a few other fights that could be on slate, for Ruiz-Ortiz out there, but it would have to be to something where it's a point where people would be in demand to see Ruiz-Ortiz in the ring. Would they want to see Ruiz-Ortiz in the ring? I mean, now, with Ortiz losing, maybe that changes his overall status in the IBF rankings. As if you check the IBF rankings, he was the highest rated contender there for the IBF rankings, above Philip Hergovich, above Anthony Joshua, above Joe Joyce, and above Joseph Parker. But now with him losing this particular bout, now it's like, okay, what else is out there? Who else is out there for him to face? At this particular point, of his career, like, is he going to face like a Otto Wallin, or I don't know, maybe a Dominic Brazil, if he's still fighting or whatever it is, who knows? But that's going to be a question there. Bringing in a guest, a long time guest of the Boxing Source radio show here to join us in this conversation. It is the boxing academic in the building. What's going on?
What's going on? What's going on, Jay? How you doing, man?
All right, hold up just a minute. Looks like something's going down here real quick. Hold on. See if you could speak again.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah. Now I can.
Nice. Yep. Just saying hello. How you doing?
All good, man. Like I said, I was talking about that Ruiz-Ortiz fight, and kind of like talking about the result in that, even with those 3 knockdowns, yeah, you had a unanimous decision, but if you took away those knockdowns and you had the scorecards be what they were, it would have been a majority draw. What do you think about that?
Well, I think what I said holds true in that Ruiz-Ortiz's Achilles heel now is going to be his punch resistance. Everyone who goes in the ring with Deontay Wilder, they don't leave out the same way they came in. And it is very evident with Ruiz-Ortiz. I mean, he's an old man too. You can see that his physically he has deteriorated. And I mean, our bodies aren't meant to go through that, the punishment that these professional athletes put themselves in. But I mean, if you put a good boxer in with a good brawler, a lot of times the boxer wins. And so if you just had Ruiz-Ortiz with stronger legs, and I don't know if that means that he needs to do exercises to focus on his legs, like, sort of targeted exercises to like make your knees stronger. Because I'm sure that's a part of him having weak legs, is that his knees are old and he just can't bend down, and maybe his knees are like blown or whatever, and at which it ain't much he can do. But what I'm saying is, it makes sense. You got a person who's a better boxer than Ruiz, and as long as he kept Ruiz on the outside and he didn't let Ruiz sort of set his feet, he was fine. The moment he allowed Ruiz to get in close, set his feet, throw them little punches. Now Ruiz does very well when he shifts his body, which is one thing. Like, let's say he on the inside and he's sort of off balance or leaning, he does well doing the overhand like shift and like, from his core, like generating a lot of speed on his punch. That would be the only thing I would worry for Deontay Wilder, because all these guys, when they get hit right on the ear and stuff, they get hurt,
right?
Especially in the heavyweight division. And Deontay Wilder ruptured eardrum, whatever. He ain't the same either. I mean, his punch resistance is lower. Everybody's punch resistance lower. Maybe everyone except for Usyk. I mean, Usyk couldn't take no punch for real anyway. But what I'm saying is, Usyk, I don't think has had the type of concussions that everybody else has had. So, yeah, I mean, it made sense to me. The Achilles heel of Ruiz-Ortiz is going to be his punch resistance, and Father Time is undefeated. You can't get away from him getting touched. He's going to get touched eventually, and then what's going to happen is he's going to get touched with a regular or above average punch, not even a spectacular punch, and it's going to hurt him, and he always going to be fighting from behind. That, I mean, unless he retire, which he getting pretty close to, he probably should think about retiring, because it ain't. I get that he just now getting these opportunities, but everybody went out and they did exactly what they wanted to do. It's about time for him to think about something else. You know what I'm saying? Like, because Father Time is undefeated. That's why you see Floyd Mayweather fighting guys, 20, 30 pounds smaller than him. You know what I'm saying? Like, at least he's smart about it.
Exhibitions, yeah.
Yeah, exhibitions. At least he's smart about it. Fight somebody who I know can't hurt me. Let me add a little bit more weight, hold my arms up, walk through them, and just Mexican style on them. Say what you will about Floyd, but the man is very tactical, and he knows how to use those tactics to make money. I mean, I expected Ruiz to win. And I knew and I felt like he was gonna win just based off of Ruiz-Ortiz's punch resistance. I said it before. I mean, it didn't surprise me that Ruiz-Ortiz was winning the boxing match, but his punch resistance will always fail him.
Yeah, and I just didn't think that Ruiz-Ortiz would be able to do the same thing that he did against Charles Martin. I just felt like, even with the instances where Andy Ruiz Jr. had been like caught by Chris Arreola in his last bout, I don't think like it would have been to the situation where he would really get caught in a sense here against Ruiz-Ortiz. But yes, he did end up getting hit with a few left hands by Ruiz-Ortiz, and that kind of like kept him honest in a sense. But the thing about it is, I just don't think it would have been enough for him to like say be more cautious against Ruiz-Ortiz to where he would have been able to score more knockdowns, or he would have been able to finish off Ruiz-Ortiz. Sometimes you got to be able to take advantage of that moment and just try to do what it takes in order for you to finish off your opponent. And in a lot of those instances where he was able to score, I would say 2 of the knockdowns was where he was able to get in close. And whether it's in a clinch or, real close where it's like you're trying to tie him up, he was able to, throw those hands in close and hit, Ruiz-Ortiz around the temple or whatever it is and score those knockdowns. But, what I was saying was, I know that that's the most effective Andy Ruiz Jr. is when he's in close quarters, but he doesn't do really that much in order to set up getting to the inside. He doesn't throw like a lead jab. He doesn't really move his head. All he does is he really just puts his hands up and just puts his arms up and down and watches for his opponent to throw a punch and then, kind of like covers up or tries to block it. But as far as like throwing a left jab and coming forward or, trying to set up your opponent to where you could land a good counter, he really hasn't done that. And, for him to, be under the tutelage of Manny Robles, for him to be under the tutelage of, Eddie Reynoso, and being that he has like years and years of fighting, fighting since he was a young kid, that you would have thought that, he would have kind of, got those things or, brought up those things. It's more of like his intangibles that, he could catch people with counters or he could surprise people up close is what has him, be able to have advantages against a number of his opponents or catch his opponents by surprise. That's what, pretty much caught Anthony Joshua by surprise was that, Joshua thought he had the momentum after scoring a knockdown. So he just tried to come up close and, work, but he ended up getting caught because of Andy Ruiz's hand speed up close. So if you know that you had those advantages by default, you want to add more elements to your game so that you can set up getting to your advantage. And you haven't really seen that with Andy Ruiz Jr. And I just haven't seen it within the last 3 fights that he's had.
Yeah, he's definitely limited. I mean, I'm summarizing what you're saying, but he's limited. And if you allow him to do that limited thing that he has shown to have a strength at, then he gonna have success. Don't allow him to do it. Keep him away from you. Everybody will beat him the same way Joshua beat him.
And that to me is why I heavily favor Deontay Wilder over him if they end up facing each other. My thing was, and we kind of like said this in an earlier conversation, that as long as Deontay Wilder uses a jab or uses his reach or kind of like fights him the way that they fought Ruiz-Ortiz, he shouldn't have much of a problem because, like I said, I mean, Andy Ruiz Jr. doesn't really set up his strengths by, doing something in order to get to the inside. Like, he doesn't move around like a Joe Frazier or somebody that, could get in and out or bob and weave and then try to get to the inside. So he'll stand there. And if he stands there, he's just a sitting target for you to throw a left jab, throw a left jab, throw a left jab. Or, like you say with Wilder, paw the jab, bring down one hand, shoot with the right. It's just there for Deontay Wilder against someone like Andy Ruiz. You would need to have a shorter fighter that could really move his head, have some good foot movement around the ring in order for you to like have more of an advantage against Deontay Wilder in this particular sense. And I really don't see that from Andy Ruiz Jr. You know what I mean? Let me see if we could try another guest coming in. Has been coming in for the past few weeks here. Clever in the building. What's going on?
What's going on, gentlemen? Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Yes.
Beautiful. I'm on this Bluetooth, and you know how those headphones go.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's up? What's happening?
Yeah, just going over that main event there between Andy Ruiz Jr. and Ruiz-Ortiz, and Ruiz got the decision. Ruiz got the decision win, and from the judges didn't seem all too impressed.
Yeah, after thinking about it for what seems like 24 hours later, it certainly seems that way. I wasn't overwhelmed. If you remember a couple 6-7 streams ago, days ago, excuse me, I was saying I had Ortiz winning. He boxed pretty well, man. I mean, I think they had it right. He obviously was on the card somehow.
Mm-hmm.
What was interesting is that he couldn't put the old man away. Forget knocking out. Like, he couldn't even keep him from getting above the canvas. So I'm not going to say it wasn't lackluster because Andy's hands are very nice, man, and very lethal. I would like to see that pretty much against anybody, really, because Andy's capable. I just worry about the lapses. But I really, coming back to Ortiz, it's hard to put him away. the guy's really old, rather 43, he's like 46. And then skipping to all the way to the end, people want to throw Wilder in there. And Jay, I know you're not big on Wilder, man, but like it's just narrative pushing. It's just like kind of with Isaac Cruz and the Tank situation. It's like, dude, you got big with the guy with one hand. Stop. And then and they want to put him in there. And I wouldn't mind it, but it's like, they're already trying to push that. And I'm just like, nah, he couldn't even put away old man. Wilder beat that guy 3 and 4 years ago. Really, almost 5. I think they fought twice, right? What was that 2016 and 2018?
2018 and 2020. It looked like, right? Yeah. 2020?
I don't think it was 2020.
Well,
I don't think it was 2020.
I know the first fight was like March 1st or March 3rd. March
I think 3rd. You should check that for me. I think it's really years. I think it's a little further back. But anywho, he beat that guy years ago.
Yeah, because the thing with Wilder was it was 2018 and 2019.
Yeah, and the old man was more 2019. Okay, cool, back to back. Because Fury's punk, but postpone the trilogy there. You know how he does. They want to insert that in there. You're right, because whatever's coming from Wilder, man, is going to put you down. So, I just realized I have a confession, actually. I'm going to tell all my Twitter friends and YouTubers out there. I got a confession to make, actually. Yes, I guess I am a PBC fanboy / really a Showtime fanboy, because I don't know, man. That was an okay card last night. That was I'm not complaining about pay-per-view or anything, but it was okay. The reason why I brought that up and admitted that was that I think Showtime would have did it better.
I think Showtime production or
production, ambience, and just possibly even like helping out on the card. They would have asked for more for the bang for the buck. Nevertheless enjoyed it. I thought that guy who Cruz fought was trash.
I'm gonna get into that a little bit later. Just wanted to finish up the thing here with that Ruiz-Ortiz, man. Like I was saying, I mean, Ruiz couldn't really finish off Ruiz-Ortiz. And for me, Ruiz-Ortiz kind of like seemed like he was reluctant to throw out the left hand. Like he was landing pretty well with the right jab, but he just didn't really follow it up with the left hand and try to, really get back into the fight or something like that in a sense. But from the scorecards, it looked like he was doing enough with the jab. He was, sir. Ruiz was really kind of like responding that well to getting hit with the jab. So, I mean, I just felt like, hey, I mean, if Ortiz kind of like followed that up a couple more times, hey, we could have really had something. Because like I mean, while watching it, I'm like, he's landing the jab pretty well. I'm like, he's getting himself back into the fight. It's just that those knockdowns were pretty much the difference in momentum for Andy Ruiz Jr. And the thing about it is like, as at heavyweights, if you score knockdowns like that, you want to see if you could go ahead and finish off your opponent, because you never know when he could land something big too. Especially, like I said, with Ruiz-Ortiz, he got knocked down twice against Charles Martin and still was able to catch Charles Martin with a big shot and end up, overwhelming Charles Martin in order to force the referee to stop the bout. So it's like, man.
Excuse me. Yeah, man. I can't help but kind of sneak AJ in there. What's that tell you about that, duder? Oh man.
So I mean, I really don't know like what they're going to, set up for Ruiz-Ortiz at this particular point. Like I said, he has 3 professional losses. Yeah, he's 33-3. He is, having that Cuban background, how some how some things are kind of like set up for Cuban fighters. So who knows when he'll, get another opportunity to get back in the ring. But, for Andy Ruiz Jr., he's really open to facing Deontay Wilder next if Deontay Wilder gets to his bout against Robert Melendez on October 15th. So we're going to see how that is going to shape up here in the near future. But moving along here, as mentioned a little bit earlier, Isaac Cruz, Pitbull Cruz was, part of this card against Eduardo Ramirez. Isaac Cruz, of course, is known for having this performance against Gervonta Tank Davis last year. And here it's like, he had that, and then he was part of that Spence versus Ugas card, against Ruiz-Ortiz Gamboa, and scored that knockout win against Ruiz-Ortiz Gamboa. And, with me being there live, you kind of like seen the good reaction there for Isaac Cruz in that bout against Ruiz-Ortiz Gamboa. So it looked like, with him kind of like getting some fan appreciation, building up a fan base. It looked like they put him in the ring here once again this year. This time against a guy in Eduardo Ramirez, who, wasn't really there at lightweight. He has basically had his past couple fights at super featherweight or whatever it is, at 130-pound limit. Did face like guys like Miguel Mariaga and Luis Melendez there in that particular weight class, but he had been campaigning at featherweight as well, for some time. So, having someone that has like, excuse me, campaigned in the featherweight division for a majority of his career, going up against Isaac Cruz at lightweight, yeah, that was a definite mismatch, an absolute mismatch. And, that just kind of like been like something where Isaac Cruz washed, Eduardo Ramirez here. So it wasn't really like something that it was.
Real quick though, Jay. Real quick, sir. Real quick. So it looks like you guys already covered it.
Mm-hmm.
You can give me the short. What did you guys talk about, Ryo?
No, have not. Have not.
Okay, never mind. My bad. My bad.
So there's that. Well, before I continue there with the thing with Isaac Cruz, I want to add in another guest coming in here with the pretty interesting avatar. Checking in from Tampa, brother Terrell in the building. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, guys? Hey, real quick, Isaac Cruz is as each fight goes on, this guy is looking like the future of 135. I mean, he may be limited with his stature, but hell, Tank is small himself too. He's done 1-2, but it's kind of like funny. His loss to Tank has done so much for his confidence, things like that, and his skill set. So, I mean, of course, we need to see against higher competition, and we will eventually get that. But Isaac Cruz is looking like the truth at 135 at this point.
Yeah, and that's the thing too that hopefully, actually, I should reach out to his manager, promoter, Sean Knucklehead Gibbons, to see like what else could be here in the near future for him. I think that he's building, like I said, building a fan base that fight against Gervonta Tank Davis last December really like showed what he could potentially do. I think that people like kind of like came off of that particular fight like saying like this is a really tough, really good fighter or whatever it is, really tough, durable or whatnot, and that maybe they could do a few things with him in the lightweight division. And for me, I see like there could be two potential opponents out there for Isaac Cruz. One is Michelle Rivera. Michelle Ali Rivera there is someone at 135 that they could, potentially put Isaac Cruz in there against. That would kind of like be a good little fight of contrasting styles with, Isaac Cruz being a brawler, coming in there, kind of bully his way into getting to his opponent, and the thing with Rivera, kind of like being more of like a boxer, boxer puncher type of fighter there. Or you could have another boxer puncher in there against Isaac Cruz with Rolando Rolly Romero. We haven't really seen what would be next for Rolly Romero since his knockout loss to Gervonta Tank Davis in the Barclays Center on Memorial Day weekend. So we like to see like what else could be out there for Rolly Romero. And I'm like, well, hey, maybe that could be it for Rolly Romero. And that would kind of like make for a really good fight, because there, I really think that one fighter would end up getting knocked out or stopped if it was Isaac Cruz versus Rolly Romero. So that would kind of like be a really interesting fight between those two characters there. That could be something that could potentially happen next there. So those are like two fights that are out there for Isaac Cruz. What does anyone think about those two potential matchups?
Well, did you catch Rolly's response to Cruz's win on Twitter?
Let me see. Let me see if I can find that first, and then if I find it, then I'll see if I could try to do Rolly Romero.
It's not hard to
a Rolly Romero voice or something like that.
It's your typical wild, brash style. Basically, it only goes on for like a couple of minutes, but basically, Rolly Romero said, "Yeah, I would knock him out." He goes to a quick punch output and stuff like that. But typical of Rolly Romero. But even with Romero, it would be a good fight. Definitely would be a good fight. But even Romero, back to him. I'm glad that in this fight against Tank, he showed a classic, composed boxing style. So we expect for that to come from him going forwards and everything. But just like I said, only in boxing do you get responses like this and reactions like this. Would it be? And this goes back from years and years where people just out here acting fools for the camera. And I get it. It's boxing. You have to gain yourself attention, things like that. But it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. But I think with Romero, there was also one thing that was kind of like mentioned on Twitter from Gervonta Tank Davis, where he said, "Hey, maybe fight between Isaac Cruz and Rolly Romero would be a good little scrap." But before I go forward in this, I want to add in another columnist. Looks like he has a very interesting avatar that he's added on here. We know him as the president of the Deontay Wilder fan club, Mr. MBO, Mr. Matt.
Yo, what's good to y'all, man? I had to bring out the official MVO Book of Negroes logo, because you have a panel full of Negroes.
No!
I wanted to.
What's up, man?
Yo, what's good? Yo, Boxing Academic, what's good, my brother? It's been too long.
It's been a week.
I'm doing good, Matt. Just eating my steak and my sweet potato.
I like
and
that,
my
bro.
asparagus and some carrots. I ain't want to say it, 'cause I ain't want Terrell to like shit on me. Terrell be being mean if you talk about food and stuff.
Yeah, what's funny? I'm about to head
Take your ass to the kitchen.
I'm about to head to Outback Steakhouse right now.
Oh,
So I'm gonna get me some steak and stuff.
They got that in New York and Bronx.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was funny. That was funny. Since I stopped eating pork, I have cravings for steak. So I eat steak maybe like every other week.
Man, ain't nothing wrong with eating steak, my brother. That is what we men are meant to do. Okay.
I eat pretty much a ribeye every day.
NBO, talking about the Cruz fight where he washed his opponent, and the thing with Andy Ruiz and Ruiz-Ortiz, where I kind of feel like you were disappointed with that particular fight.
Yes, I was disappointed with the scorecards.
Like, we had two scores of basically like a 6-6 when it came to rounds, and one scorecard that had 7-5
Yes.
favor of Ortiz.
Yes, and guess what, JR? It should have been 9-3 in favor of Ruiz-Ortiz because that is the fight that I saw. 114, 111. Ruiz-Ortiz should have got the decision.
Wow.
But we all know what it
Now-
is. They want a
now-
Mexican. PBC wants a Mexican that draws some stuff in California. They want
See.
the fix was in. They're trying to push the old man out of the game. But the old man showed, despite being knocked on the canvas 3 times, that he is a warrior. He got up and he gave Andy Ruiz a boxing lesson. And I thought that Andy Ruiz only won rounds 2, 7, and 11.
Yeah. You know, man, I said the same thing. I was like, what was surprising? Like, forget the knockout. He couldn't even keep the old man from getting up off the canvas, man. That guy, talking about Ortiz, I had him winning too. Or meaning, like, I thought he was going to win the match. He was boxing around that guy. He just he forced the action because every time he came in, he would get hit pretty fastly. So it was an interesting match. It was an interesting match. Go real fast, Jay. Because Ruiz's face was pretty messed up, man. His shit was really messed up. He looked like he had been beat up. It was like, oh man.
So my thing is,
but the funny part is, it might not go down as controversial.
Yeah.
It might not go down as controversial, but that second knockdown in the second round. Knockdown. Was that really a knockdown? The scores would have been a draw. It would have been a draw if not for that second knockdown being called.
Good call, sir. Good call. Yeah. Steve Levy.
Yeah, I think I would have thought it would have been like if you took away all the knockdowns, it would have been a majority draw. 2 scores of 114, 114, 1 score 115, 113 in favor of Ruiz-Ortiz.
No, it was 2 scores of 113, 112. Which means Ruiz-Ortiz would have lost that second point for the second knockdown.
You had Zach Young.
Remember, that was a 10-7 round.
Yeah, but Zach Young had it 114, 111. And Eddie Hernandez Sr. had it 114, 111. There was 1 score of 113.
I thought it was 113, 112 twice.
Nah.
I thought it was 113, 112 twice.
Yeah. But going off that though, like you had a number of those rounds where Ruiz-Ortiz was basically controlling the pace of the fight with just his right jab. You know,
Most of the fight.
Like, you know, the thing with his right jab was doing pretty well, but he didn't really follow it up that much with the left hand. Like I think with Andy Ruiz Jr. is they talk about his offense, but they don't talk about his lack of defense. All he, a lot of times he just, comes in and he's like this and, has his hands up and, blocks punches, but he doesn't really do well when it comes to throwing counters where they have like a good amount of spacing. He just waits until he's able to get to the inside and then, he can clinch up. He could throw a couple of combinations. He could throw, 2 or 3 punch combinations up close. But outside of that, it's like, where's the jab that could establish him getting to the inside? Where's his other elements that he could set up in order to land those big shots once he's in range? Didn't really see that.
But it's his biggest problem.
His feet are too slow.
Inability to adapt to the southpaw style. You saw that. He just stayed out. He controlled the fight, like you guys said, with his jab, box him, stay around outside, box him. But Ruiz just cannot stop that southpaw style. That's really what it boiled down to.
I mean, yeah, you could say that, but he, what we're saying in this conversation, that he was just jab, jab, bang, bang, jab, jab, bang, bang. And his defense was putting on back the weight and going in, his chin. So, yeah, you could say that little slow footwork and his chin for defense. He needs to work on that.
It's so funny, though. If Ruiz-Ortiz didn't make those mistakes and engage in like he did, he could have boxed to a 12-0 decision like it was nothing. I saw no improvement from Ruiz.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that I opened up with. I mean, you have Andy Ruiz Jr. that was in his 3rd fight with his 3rd different trainer. So it's like, okay, isn't he supposed to like develop something else, along the way? from being with different, trainers, or kind of like have something where, okay, I was with, Eddie Reynoso, I was able to learn this, or, I'm with, who I'm with now, and, learn something different. I didn't really see that.
I think Reynoso messed him up. But another problem with Ortiz is that you see he's really 46, not 43. Could be
All right, we're not
47.
going to start that. We're not going to start that.
No, that's real, man.
We're not.
I'm just saying.
No, it's not.
Real.
It's not real. It's not real. Okay,
No,
Cuba.
he's old, bro.
Excuse me. Cuba has one of the best medical systems in the entire world. Okay.
Can I go to their Social Security right now and figure that all out?
A
right
social
now?
security number is only a United States thing.
Exactly.
That's literally, but that's only a United States thing. You can't get a social security number from any country.
Well, okay.
What
Let me
are
be
you talking
specific.
about?
What? Let me be specific. No, let me be
You sound
specific.
very ignorant.
No.
You sound
Let me be
very
specific.
ignorant, man.
Let me be specific. Where can I find that type of information? Then?
What type
Doesn't
of
have to
information?
be. I just said that because that's just a broad term.
What type of information are you looking for?
I'm not trying to make it a big deal. Name, number, all that good stuff. ID, anything.
No, but that's very
But
ignorant stuff.
It's not a big
rooted
deal.
in-
I'm just saying that's
in
real.
racism against brown country. No, it's not real. That's
Oh my
racism
goodness.
rooted
Where are
against
you?
brown countries. Only brown countries do they say
Brother.
they don't know your real date of birth. Get the fuck out of here with that.
Brother.
What's the system in Europe?
Brother.
But you don't question the Europeans, do you? Come on,
question
man.
them
Get out of
all.
that bullshit.
I said the same thing.
I
said the same thing.
All
with
right.
I said the same thing with
Triple
Triple
G.
G.
Hey, I got something to add to the comment.
All right, Bobby.
Hey, fuck what y'all talking about. I know his knees old as fuck. His knees 50 years old. That man got some bad knees.
Yeah, because he's really old. He's like that old. No shit.
That dude was moving it. That dude was moving the street like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's pretty much it. So I'm like, come on, man. You gotta be able to do something. But like I said, when you have someone like Andy Ruiz who really doesn't have that much good foot movement anyway, you could, still be competitive to a certain extent with something like that happening. So there's that. You want to talk about the whole thing with Isaac Cruz and Eduardo Ramirez? Like I said, Ramirez is just like someone that was like a featherweight or whatever it is, super featherweight, fighting at 135 pounds against Isaac Cruz. So that's how that goes. But we also had Jose Valenzuela there against Edwin De Los Santos. And De Los Santos was quote unquote a replacement opponent against Rayo, and Rayo just basically got caught in a little bit of a scrap here.
He got his ass cooked. He got his ass cooked.
No, that guy was trash. That guy sucks. Who he fought? Didn't even want to fight him. Didn't even want to fight him. Didn't even want to fight the guy. He was so scary. He was like, what the fuck? Man.
What?
But this is a guy in Edwin De Los Santos that did kind of stop one person that I talked with a few weeks back in Luis Acosta back in March. He was able to score a KO victory there. So but he
didn't want to fight Cruz though, Jay.
He also fought William Foster III to a split decision. So he was like a split decision away from being undefeated. So maybe this was like a trap of sorts there for Rayo, in a sense. And Rayo was just not ready for it.
Oh, we're talking about Rayo. I thought we were talking about Isak, man.
No. You were talking about the whole thing with bringing up
no, I thought we quickly switched to Cruz though. I thought we quickly switched to Cruz. Yeah. Okay. Huh.
So yeah, I'm like, hey, why what does this do as far as like the overall momentum or trajectory for Rayo, getting caught up in this particular instance?
For starters, one thing that kind of stood out for me, I wasn't really complaining about any referees much last night, but going straight to this matchup, Rayo, he got cooked, man. Yeah, like before he even knew it, he was beat. And that guy, he was like, man, I guess he knew him and liked him. He was like, hey, man, I'm not going to let you get embarrassed like this. I know you're on the come up. But he lost. I think he'll bounce back. But also, too, you know, he took a fight on a week's notice. You know, he didn't know that guy. And then here's another excuse. He kind of didn't even look right, man. At the beginning of the fight, he was a little nervous, little butterflies, jitters. And then when that first round, you know, he was already getting pieced up, getting pawed up. He was like, oh, man. But I like where he's at, man. I like him as a fighter. I like him in the ring. I like his camp, the Benavidez crew. He'll be okay. He'll be okay. He's in a nice spot. He's in a good area. He's in a good timing. He'll be all right.
Yeah. Oh, MVO, you were talking about it, like, you know, saying that he got cooked in this particular instance. So, like, did you think it was like a trap fight for him?
Yeah, honestly, I was never a big believer in Ryo to begin with, so this is not surprising to me. What is surprising to me is how quickly it got done. You know, I didn't think he was going to lose this early. I thought when he stepped up, he was going to lose, but I guess this was to step up for him. Like when I saw him face with an opponent, I was looking like, oh, he's a heavy hitter. So, you know, Ryo got to be careful. But Ryo thought he was going to go in and get him out of there. But that's the issue when it comes to punches. What happens when you face someone that can take your punch? Can you then audible and find a way to either get them out of there or box their decision? And Ryo's not capable of doing that at this stage of his career.
Word. Boxing Academy, you checking back in?
Yep. Don't tell me I got a phantom profile again. Which one was Ryo? Which dude was Ryo?
Dude that you know, that Jose Valenzuela, you know, that came in there and was there at lightweight, going up, like I said, going up against De Los Santos.
The boxing academic is asking which fighter is who. I just want to point that out.
Which fighter is what?
Which fighter is who?
I watched the fight, but I just don't remember.
The boxing academic is asking who is who.
MVO, I'm glad you finally got you a profile picture.
You know, I'm cool. I deserve that.
Yeah, because you fronted me and told me to get a profile picture.
Yeah.
And I paid somebody $40 to do this.
Oh, man.
You need to get your money back.
No, they did well. Don't try to hate on them. They did well. They did well. Don't try to play it. That dude did well. Good $40 spent.
Who did it for you?
Some dude off of Fiverr. I don't know.
Fiverr?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I got like one of the things for like doing the intro, like 15-second intro for videos. That's where I got the joint from.
Look like you got it from Wish.
No, yours look like you got it from Wish. Yours look like one of them goddamn raccoons that got hit by a car. And then the blood underneath it. Look at the blood underneath.
First of all, I made this myself.
I know you did. It's bleeding. It got hit and it's bleeding.
I made this myself.
Oh, bloody raccoon icon.
It took me 2 minutes. It took me only 2 minutes.
You need to change the color scheme. Like the raccoon got hit, it got X's on his eyes, it's bleeding.
Oh, okay.
Hey man, you know I crack too, man. Y'all know you clown me, but you did that to yourself with that dead raccoon.
Oh man! But what's next for Ryo? Back to the drawing board?
I think so. You know, he's
okay,
man. unless if they do this thing where where you have the instance of a fighter that's coming up undefeated and then runs into somebody and ends up getting knocked out or stopped, and they may set up a rematch for those same two fighters because they didn't really think that De Los Santos was going to win this bout. So I wouldn't be surprised if they set up a rematch between these two guys next.
Yeah, but the rematch won't be as exciting because you're gonna have them making Ryo basically box and move all day because they know he can't take this kid's punch.
But that's the thing about it too. It's like Ryo was kind of like ranked in WBC, and this was like one of those little minor belts was put up for this fight. So. Like I'm thinking that they're kind of like moving this towards having a rematch here for this particular bout because even in the WBC rankings they had Ryo ranked above Michelle Rivera, man. Which I'm like, I don't know how that's possible, but they have him up there, so that's what's going on. What else they had? This one wasn't part of the pay-per-view card. It's part of like the thing with FS1. Ruiz Salim going up against Mike Plania there in super bantamweight, and Ruiz Salim just shut him out 10-0, scored a knockdown. Got the win, and immediately after that win, he called out the 2021 Boxing Source Fighter of the Year, Stephen Fulton, and I'm like, hey, if they really don't have anything else out there for Stephen Fulton right now, then, why not have this bout? I feel like it's almost like, in a way, see how they did that? In a way, they're trying to wait until it's potentially a fight between Stephen Fulton and Naoya Inoue. After Inoue, goes ahead and fights Butler and becomes undisputed champion, super flyweight, whatever it is, then moves up in weight or whatever it is, or
my money on Steve Fulton.
I would do that same thing too. I'll put my money on him. But
by the time we can knock this hype train down.
Anyway, not a hype train. Anyways, not a hype train.
I must admit, I'm talking crap. I hadn't watched many of his fights, so I don't know, to be honest.
But what about his kind of like his resume of sorts? It's kind of like been of note. That he's faced the top. I guess you could say he's faced the top guys in bantamweight. Now, but when he was a division below in super flyweight, that you had all of those guys, well-known guys in super flyweight.
Yeah, that's the only hole in his resume is the super flyweight division.
Yeah,
that's the only hole in his resume.
You don't face, Rat King or Chocolatito. Like you could have had a fight against Chocolatito. You could have stayed around there for a little bit and fought Chocolatito, and that would have been a really, really, really big fight there at that particular weight class. But he didn't really, really do that.
So what's his biggest fight? Nonito Donaire?
Up to this point?
Either that or you could say Navarez, because he smoked Navarez when nobody even knew who he was. And Navarez was a long reigning champion.
How did he win over Navarez? By knockout?
He smoked him. Yeah, smoked him.
Yeah. Left hook to the body.
Oh, okay.
In fact, that was the super flyweight card in HBO when they started coining it as the punch bowl over here in South Bay. But
which Steve get full credit for being anyway, considering that fact.
Yes, he would. Yes, he would. Yes, he would. Yes, he would. Yes, sir. Yes, he would. But the thing about, I'm not really making it too big of a deal between those two guys yet, because I think Naoya needs to get off from under the top ranked banner first, and then we can start talking. And then we were having some spaces over the weekend.
And go where?
Well, if he's gonna fight Steve Fulton, he's gonna come on over to the PBC. but I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying he is, but I mean that would be the most likely direction since a lot of smoke is over here on that side of the border. But kind of hear me out again too. You know, in my opinion, I think Nair in a way, he's one of those fierce guys, and he's the real deal, like Matt was saying. But you know, he's a guy really looking for a challenge, so he's going to keep challenging himself. He has a real chance to end his career undefeated and possibly topping out at featherweight. But if not so soon, you know, it will be 122. The problem with that is that there's not really a lot of up and coming 122s right now. You just kind of got a solid base of guys. A lot of guys don't really, they're still 50-50 on MJ. But we, you know, and that's even more on that. But, you know, yeah, I just want to wait on him to get off on the top rank. He'll be okay.
Yeah,
but I also, one more thing, Jake. Like I also like I also fight against his ranking a lot because I think Tank's Leo Santa Cruz win is better than anything on his resume. I really do. And there's already murmurs and talks of like, oh, people want a rematch between him and Cruz. And I'm like, we beat him with one hand, and by just using some other folks' logic, I'm like, fine, cool. If he goes in there and beats Cruz, knocks him out in 3 or fewer rounds, make him number one, because Nair got boosted to number one by beating a 40-year-old, man. Like he fought that guy at 38, and then he fought him 2 years later at 40, and that made him to number one. And I'm just like, dude, they're arguably the same size. I'm just like, you know, whatever. But you know, he's the real deal. He's the real deal. And
yeah, speaking of that pound for pound thing, I'm gonna have to you know, release my list a little bit later. You know what I mean? So there's that. Having another guest that wants to jump into the live conversation. Welcome in this first time guest on to the Boxing Source Radio Show with Gusto in the building, checking in. Gusto, what's happening?
What's going on, man? What's happening? Hopefully everybody's well. I won't use people's government names, but y'all know who you are. Good evening to you, brothers.
What's going on? What's going on?
Gusto, it's like 100 degrees in SoCal, man.
Yeah. I called my kids earlier. They seem extremely sad. I don't feel the most sympathy for them. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. This humidity been hitting me with the Randy Savage elbow drop for 2 years.
From the top rope, buddy. From the top rope. Oh yeah. But yeah, hey, Gusto, what you think about that Ruiz-Ortiz card, man?
Look, man, I gladly paid. I gave Fight TV about just under $100 in less than 24 hours. I paid $20 to watch Prince Albert Bell and a couple of Toledo and Cincinnati and Ohio fighters do their thing. And then the very next day, you know, for everybody who talk trash, tell people put your money where your mouth is. If y'all gonna be stream team, then stream it. But shut up if you stream it. I paid my $76 yesterday, and hell of a card, man. I mean, the main event was, in my opinion, I think the main event was the most, probably to a certain extent, lackluster fight, because the undercard was amazing. Like it was worth my money. It was way better than I thought it was gonna be. I was supporting it because I always want to see heavyweights fighting, and look, I just don't see Andy Ruiz for 2 straight fights. Well, hell, 3 if you go back to Joshua 2. There's now 3 straight fights where he just doesn't, oddly enough, no pun intended, he don't look hungry. Just being real. He doesn't look hungry the way he used to. Hard to get up and do that work, sleeping on silk sheets, whatever you want to call it. Plus, I said I'm not rooting for no man with tattoos on his ass. But yeah, bro, he went out there.
How you know he got a tattoo on his ass?
Yeah, because it's literally all over all of his social media. I had some people who they tried to report one of my tweets because it was there's a video. If you go on my Twitter feed, there's a video of Canelo rubbing after he had the Canelo's rubbing the A&D cream or something on his butt, and I just attached the George Lopez Mas Puto clip, And people were like, "This is hate speech." I was like, "Oh, hold on. Why are y'all tempted to flag this tweet?" I'm like, "Why this tweet got so much activity and no likes?" But yeah, man. There's Ruiz. Ruiz ain't the same. For some reason, him going in there against Areola, he didn't step it up against Areola. He got dropped last night. If you take away, including I'm gonna call it 2 knockdowns. If you take away the 2 knockdowns, he was getting jabbed up, punched up for the entire fight. And it wasn't like Ruiz's jab or Ortiz's jab was coming extremely fast.
Right.
It was slow. It was predictable, but Ruiz just couldn't. It was 12 rounds of him getting hit in the face.
You know what was crazy? You know what was crazy about the jab with Ruiz-Ortiz is that it was predictable, but it's not like he was trying to fake out Andy Ruiz Jr. by doing stutter steps and trying to do feints, but he was still right there in front of Andy Ruiz Jr. throwing a jab. But with Andy Ruiz, he doesn't have the leg movement and he doesn't really move his head, so that jab was going to be right there available for Ruiz-Ortiz the whole fight.
Yeah, I've been really let down by Ruiz after he showed up looking like an extreme fat body in Joshua too, and ever since then, I mean, he made too much money. Now I won't say he made too much money, but he got paid to a point where now it's not like he was in his young top rank days getting paid, $85,000, $125,000 a fight, where he had to go and work, and even then Bob cut him because he wouldn't show up in shape. So yeah, man, it's I don't know, bro. I don't know. For the people who think he's gonna beat Wilder, whatever, yeah, he's gonna get killed. I mean, Wilder may not have the most effective jab, but I mean, he's out here getting dropped by Chris Areola and getting worked over by Ortiz, and neither are as fast or as strong as Wilder. So yeah, look, just give me Ruiz versus Frank Sanchez. Just line it up.
Yeah, just line that up. Because if you have Ruiz or Andy Ruiz Jr. against Deontay Wilder, you might get a similar result to Deontay Wilder, Ruiz-Ortiz 2. Just that 1-2, and then that 2 comes in, bam, and you're gonna see that sweat flying all over the place. I just don't see Andy Ruiz being any type of threat to beat Deontay Wilder in that sense. So yeah, just put Andy Ruiz there against Frank Sanchez. Actually, that might be a more competitive fight, and Sanchez might be able to win that.
Can I say something about Wilder before we go to Sanchez and Ruiz?
All right.
The only thing that concerns me, and I think this won't be a problem because I see that Deontay Wilder is doing road work again, but his endurance got to get better. He can't have the same disposition and how he sort of just completely drained. The second Tyson Fury fight, okay, it could have been some screwy in that, okay, but the third one, it was what it was. I mean, he gave it his all, and you got to give him props, but his endurance was very questionable. He can't do that against Ruiz, because Ruiz will, with them slow feet, get close to him and throw punches, which is what he needs. He needs the ability for him to be right there, to plant his feet, and then throw them like little overhand hooks and stuff.
Now, I mean, I kind of see with Wilder. I mean, what is it going to be as far as his? For me, it's going to be his weight. How is he going to be able to carry his weight? Because remember, the thing with those Fury fights is he came in much heavier than he did against Fury in the first fight. So he was more, I would say, comfortable being the quote unquote slim reaper, as NBO says. But him being above 226 or being around 230 pounds, I'm not sure if that's going to work for him long term, against opponents like that. So
yeah, he needs to stay away from that bulking. He needs to stay away from that.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, they, like I said, they got him running. He's out there running in the track and things like that. He's working a little bit more with hand speed and kind of being more fluent with his punches. So we'll see how that turns out here in his bout against Robert Helenius on October 15th.
But doesn't he do? Doesn't he have issues with taller fighters? So I think I'm not gonna say he's gonna struggle, but I think he may struggle more because this is a taller fighter, and he historically has not. You know, he can punch down fine, but you know his 72-inch wingspan, which is probably longer than that, helps him with the shorter fighters.
Yeah, his wingspan is like what he have an 83. He got 83-inch reach, and going up against someone that has a reach of like 79. And I mean, my thing is Helenius is going to be there right in front of him, So as long as he's like staying active with the jab, he should be able to break down Robert Helenius in this particular bout. But he's gonna see if he can have more elements to his game here against Helenius. So that's the thing about that.
That's not gonna be a difficult fight, anyways, being that they were sparring partners. So they're already familiar with each other, no fear, familiar with power and stuff like that. But at this point, when they fight next month, Wilder is a much more better fighter now. Back when they did sparring, so it's gonna be as much as they know each other, it's gonna be totally different.
Yeah.
I like that drill. I drive
That's
it.
what I'm feeling on it. Now, pretty much like went through that particular card. I know that there's something coming on this weekend, but before I get into that, I wanted to kind of like drop in something in reference to potentially about that may happen in December as we're kind of like getting closer to another big fight brewing maybe, and Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia. Looks like they've had their little back and forth talk, but we'll see because after that, you really hadn't heard much about them kind of like having that trash talk. So now a lot of people felt like Ryan Garcia was kind of like flaking, but according to the folks in camp, over there in Baltimore, they're saying, hey, at this particular point, there's no turning back now. There's no turning back now for Ryan Garcia. So once they, finalize the offer or whatever it is and send it over Ryan's side, he can't back down now. So it's like, hey, we may see Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia in December. Looks like, and I think right now is pretty much the best time to do it. There really isn't. You really don't have that much time to like try to marinate anything in reference to these particular fighters. So I'm like, hey, why not make the biggest fight possible for Tank Davis right now? Since you don't have Devin Haney available, you're not gonna get Vasyl Lomachenko. So why not go after or try to get Ryan Garcia in the ring? Because you know how it is with Tank Davis. It's more of like him having big events. Not just big fights, but big events. And this would be the biggest event that they could pretty much make for Gervonta Tank Davis at this point.
Where would they have that fight?
Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I say Vegas.
Or Vegas.
I only think it will be in LA because if you look numbers wise, man, make the long story short, Ryan had that fight. Ryan, I saw Ryan at Honda Center, sold out, but that was before he blew up. That was kind of the beginning of the move where they noticed the numbers he could do. But even right now, most recently, when he was at Staples, they put Alex Rocha, who's actually an LA kid, on the undercard because Alex Rocha going to bring in 2,000, 3,000 people on his own. But after that, you add in Ryan, that's possibly another 4,000 to 5,000. And they did cool at Staples Center, but Tank went in there and sold it out, all the seats open, and like the gate was double. So LA makes sense because it's more essentially located for both groups. And, they gonna want an in-house crowd already built in, plus in LA, I mean, depending on the weekend they do it. Out in Vegas, if it's a Raider weekend, you get all the transplants, all that other stuff. But LA makes the most sense. I mean, I'd love for them to do it down here in Atlanta, but due to if it happens, due to Ryan being who Ryan is, it's not gonna vibe the same.
Yeah, it's not gonna. I thought about Atlanta.
Who is Ryan? What does Ryan is mean?
Wait, real quick, Jay, real quick, because my phone's about to die. You know, all is good as dandy, man. It's just all up to if Oscar, gives the green light for him to come on over. This is all if the Golden Boy will let him come over. That's the only way this stuff goes down. I don't want to squash that, but that's real. That's real. You're like, we can get an offer, we can get it going when this is all encouraging, but it's just he has to give the green light for that stuff.
No,
so I hope
he pretty much said openly that Oscar.
Well, let me again. He says a lot of things, man. But at the end of the day, Ryan's coming over here. That's it. No co-promotional crap. None of that. None of that stuff.
Clever's right. It's not going to be the stuff that hung up the Moongi and Charlo fight.
Yeah, or any of it. Or any of it. Tank is if you wanted to make an argument, Tank's way too big, bro. And that's we're not gonna just screw how we've been doing pay-per-view just for one guy. Think the Spence Crawford side of this. But anywho's, I'm a jet real fast. If I can hop back on, if you guys are still on, I'll be doing.
Collaboratively. What's good?
Who's that? Oh, what's up, Y? All right, I'm definitely gonna be back. I want to talk to Y soon. Peace and blessings, guys. Peace and blessings. I'll be back.
Where Neil, what's good, man?
All right, yo, I got something for you.
All right.
I heard Ryan took 35, and I heard that the Zone is going to take Mexico and I think UK. Showtime gets America.
Gets America. Yeah.
I mean,
35%. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, that kind of looks like remember Wilder Fury 1?
Yeah.
When they had Showtime for US and then the Zone took the those other markets pretty much.
Yeah.
That's how this would kind of go. So yeah. Hold on. I'm trying to try to focus on the date here real quick. December 17th. Maybe, because I think Tank said that he wouldn't really want to try to do it around his birthday, right? So, yeah, I'm thinking it might be more towards December 17th or something like that. You know what I mean? So, hey, I'm with it, man. I'm with it. Now, I was saying hey, where would it be? I'm like, yo, LA. It seems like it's the most sense.
Now Vegas. Isn't Ryan from LA?
Vegas gives them the most money, though.
Yeah, but if I'm Tank, I don't want Ryan to have a hometown fight.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when I'm the one that has the bigger status. So that would be my thing. I thought Tank Davis's birthday was more like December 5th or something like that. But he said he's born. He was in November. He's a November guy. So, but if he wants to have that fight in December and they do that Showtime pay-per-view, hey, I'm with it. So there you go. You got news there from YSM Sports Media. Ryan Garcia, man.
It finally came out on my end. Terrence Crawford, Earl Spence. I was waiting for for my sources to confirm what it was. Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting because earlier today I talked with our boy, and he said from the folks that he was talking with in Los Angeles, he didn't think it was gonna happen.
Oh man, he's dead wrong. That joint's good to go.
Woo!
It's good to go.
Oh yeah, it's gotta be good to go. He was talking about potentially Thurman. I'm like, hey, no, come on, man. Come on,
No,
man,
I
we
think
do it.
it's good to go.
Yeah, so like, hey, we go get that announcement in a couple weeks, man. So chill out. So
See, he
I'm
doesn't
like,
want it to happen because then his narrative is destroyed. Everything, like
everything comes crumbling down. He's trying to fight it to the very end. At one point he attempted to admit it, and then he just backtracked it. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, that's horrible, man. That's horrible. But yeah, man. So that'd be the two bookend fights, man, for pay-per-view November and December. I think we got the thing with Fox. Of course, they had what happened yesterday with Ruiz-Ortiz, and then next month is Wilder versus Hellenius, and then Showtime will get those two fights, and that's huge. That's huge for Showtime, man. Huge.
yeah, I don't know why dudes was like, yeah, it's gonna be announced this Saturday. He's like, fellas, this is a Fox pay-per-view. They're not gonna announce their competitor. It's not happening. I don't care that it's a PBC. They're not gonna do that.
And it's a whole separate network, man. I
don't think that they realize that particular, important part.
Like, yeah, that man, yeah. Sometimes I don't get folks with that. But yeah, those two things, man, I'm looking forward to it, man. And seeing here, and actually with that being said, with Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia, I would want to see who Michelle Rivera ends up fighting next. Because remember, he was a potential for Tank Davis. So
do not be surprised if Michelle Rivera ends up fighting the kid that beat Rayo.
Rayo?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the other thing I was saying earlier was that if they could do that with the dude that beat Jose Rayo Venezuela with Edwin De Los Santos, like I would have thought that they could possibly have a rematch between those two. Because sometimes you know how that goes. When you have a guy coming up and with the momentum being undefeated and then ends up fighting somebody and gets stopped where people probably didn't expect him to win, that they do an immediate rematch. So but if
they
not,
need to chill. They need to chill. They need to chill. Rayo. One thing about certain trainers is like their deficiencies continuously show with their body of work. And while Jose Benavidez Sr. is an excellent offensive trainer, all his fighters lack certain things. The same thing defensively. Is that on offense, they leave a lot of gaping holes in their defense. And all you got to do is punch when they're punching. Ronald Gravel, Danny Garcia, and Edwin De Los Santos.
Yeah. And you just ended up having someone getting caught here there with Ryan Venezuela, and so that kind of that's what ends up happening there, man. So hey, sometimes you got to be ready, man. Even when it's a replacement opponent, you always got to be ready. Shout out to my guy Kobe Sojbridi says he stays ready so he don't have to get ready. So but that's what you got to do here in this particular case. But that's like mostly the main stories I wanted to get to. Here of course you got the big fight in women's boxing coming up. Whereas Clarissa Shields, steps in the ring against Marshall. That's going to be on ESPN. It was supposed to be like early in the afternoon or something like that, since it's going to be in the O2 Arena. And you're also going to have Michaela Mayer against Alicia Baumgartner in this particular card. So Definitely looking forward to those two fights. Shields, I'm sorry, man. Shields, I really, even with Marshall, saying that, oh, she's, kind of like been stopping a lot of the fighters that she's been facing. That's a whole different level of competition that, she's been up there against. Yeah, she'll talk about the thing with Herman's or whatnot, or, Rand or whatnot, but, you're facing at two different points of their careers in comparison to when Claressa Shields faced them. And so, going up against fighters that are like 11-55 or 3-25 or 8-12, early in your career isn't really going to prepare you for someone with the, experience level of Claressa Shields that has, faced fighters that, like, of course, careers, like the most losses that her opponent has had is 8. And that's by a wide margin. Like, outside of that, it's like 3 losses. So, for me, I just don't feel like Savannah Marshall, is going to be able to defeat Claressa Shields. I think Claressa Shields is going to use her speed, not just with her hands, but with her feet to kind of like overwhelm Savannah Marshall in that sense. I think the more closer bout is going to be the co-feature with Alicia Baumgartner and Michaela Mayer, because of Mayer's overall skill set and her having that amateur background too. But yeah, Terrell, I know Terrell knows who I'm picking in that particular bout.
Oh yeah. Funny because how often do you? Like I said, last time when we watch these fights, we watch from just a reporter standpoint, right? But it's like at this point now, I'm not gonna lie, I want my black fighters to stand up and knock their ass out. How I feel about it. I mean, with Claressa Shields, I give her so much credit for going on the road to take this fight, and despite all the rhetoric that they're trying to stir up and stuff like that with her about, you lost her in the amateurs. That was amateurs. Once again, she's a totally different fighter now, and not only that, like you Barry outlined. Look at the class of opponents. It's night and day.
Yeah,
it's gonna be like Marshall's gonna be like walking around in mud when Clarissa's gonna be floating around like a butterfly, stinging like a bee. And I mean, we know Claressa Shields doesn't have power like that, but if she can get a knockout and just embarrass this girl in her own backyard, that would just be icing on the cake. And along with the Baumgartner-Mayer fight, it's funny, once again, when we see a network choose to get behind a certain fighter, and a lot of times because of their color, of course you can get pushed to the top. You get that exposure, whereas the other person doesn't get that same opportunity, and they can fight too. Baumgartner can fight, but she doesn't have that exposure. So once again, I generally like Mayer. I generally do, but at the same time, it's like I'm definitely pushing for my people. That's how it's just straight up.
Let me quote the words from a pretty famous person that is what some people call an activist. And when I say, good job, my brother, we rocking with you. But yeah, the thing with Alicia is, like you said, she could fight. And that's the thing. It's one thing to, have good boxing skills and everything like that, but it's a whole nother thing when you can fight and you can hit and hit hard. And that, and even with the, the background and the type of opponents that Michaela Mayer has, faced up to this particular point, I don't know if they could fight. I don't think they could really crack, do something that could really like buzz you like Baumgartner, could. And so, with this one, it's like, hey, unless if you really could try to outbox your opponent and try to move around the ring very well, I don't know. You got someone in Baumgartner that, of course, is trained over there in the Detroit area. has the background, has Tony Harrison as one of her trainers or whatnot. Like of course, she's gonna have a boxing background of sorts too. I mean, Tony Harrison is one of the better pure boxers in the sport, especially in that 154-pound division that he's in. So I'm like, I don't see like where a good number of people look like they're kind of like picking Michaela Mayer. So I don't know, man. If we had our guy, world ranked in here, we talk about how the books would look. I'd say, man, I'd go for the clear decision win by Clarissa Shields and the knockout win by Alicia Baumgartner. See, how much that would return there in the books if you're able to put something down on that. So, I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to those two fights. I'm kind of like happy that they're going to have those particular fights carried by Top Rank in ESPN or ESPN Plus or whatnot. It will be on Sky Sports, over in the UK. But like I said, I mean, I got to back, a girl. Of course, one of the favorite guests through the Boston Source, Mr. Dimitri Toledo. So I'm definitely backing Clarissa Shields to get this win, and she kind of like said like, hey, she really is not that phased from what happened in the Olympics, and she kind of like said at the same time, even with that loss in the amateurs, that still didn't really mean much. She won 2 gold medals. Savannah Marshall didn't win anything in the amateurs when it came to world championships or whatnot. She didn't win those gold medals in the Olympics. So kind of like feel like Clarissa is going to be really focused on showing how much better she is in comparison to Savannah Marshall, and showing like she has been a multi-division world champion, a multi-division undisputed champion, and that she's gonna be once again an undisputed champion in the middleweight division. So definitely looking forward to that there. So that's pretty much mostly what I have here. Later on this week, hopefully I'll have posted through the YouTube channel my updated pound for pound rankings. I really hadn't kind of like taken the time to post those pound for pound rankings. So I'm gonna do that here later this week on the YouTube channel. So y'all look forward to that.
Substance or hype? Fury Joshua.
Hype. We're talking about the Gypsy King. The Gypsy King, the same Gypsy King that said he was going to retire and give up the WBC and Ring Magazine belt, right? So he gives up the Ring Magazine belt. Now Alexander Usyk is the Ring Magazine heavyweight champion. And so he's like, oh, now that Usyk is the winner, he was the winner of the rematch. Of course, the potential bout between Fury and Joshua doesn't really have the amount of money or backing that people thought it would have had if Anthony Joshua would have won that and became 3-time unified champion. So a fight between Fury and Joshua for the undisputed championship would have been, of course, much bigger than Fury versus Usyk for the undisputed championship. And he feels like even a fight between him and Anthony Joshua right now would kind of garner more interest than him fighting Alexander Usyk for the undisputed championship. And Usyk has made it public that he's not fighting again this year, which I don't blame him. I'm like, you pretty much just fought like a few weeks ago. Why are you gonna get back in the ring to try to fight again so soon? So I think it's Fury just playing games yet again. In that I still feel like if he's gonna do anything, it's going to be against Alexander Usyk. In the Top Rank telecast that they had, what was it last week? They're talking about, the potential of when Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk would fight each other, that it could be surrounding around, Super Bowl weekend, or, sometime around, like I said, February or March. So I'm like, why not just wait it out, just see what happens over the next few months, have Alexander Usyk fully recover, and then just go for the undisputed title bout in March. If you can have it in Saudi Arabia, just have it in Saudi Arabia. You know what I mean? It's not like, they won't invest money into it. So if they got the money to blow, why not take it? So I'd say, hey, have that undisputed fight in March and worry about a fight with Anthony Joshua later on down the line.
Well, at least Joshua did respond to Fury. He said, basically, I don't negotiate in the media. Basically, if you want to talk about a contract or a fight, hit up my management, stuff like that. So at this point, if there is substance, then we will be seeing in the upcoming weeks, especially with, like you stated, that with Usyk saying he's not going to fight for the rest of the year. So we'll see.
Fury better stop bullying Joshua. That was all. That was it. It wasn't
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's just Fury being Fury. That's kind of like what I see there. It's just Fury being Fury. So, with that being said, that kind of like.
What can I say this? Can I say this? Because
Yeah,
you seem like I'm pretty convinced Fury would knock Anthony Joshua out. Like maybe even worse in a sense than he did Deontay Wilder.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know about that either.
I think
don't know about that.
okay, maybe not worse in terms of Deontay Wilder falling and getting like falling sort of like how he fell, but I can see Anthony Joshua pause when I say this, but like getting knocked down and being on his knees and like climbing, like walking across the ring, crawling across the ring on all fours, trying to like climb up on the rope. I can see it being that type of knockout. Like it'll be visually. I mean, it was a bad knockout that he did to Wilder, but I'm just saying it'd be up there visually in terms of how the knockout would look with Anthony Joshua. Because Anthony Joshua gonna be winded when he get knocked out.
Who's the better matchup for Fury, Wilder or Joshua? Who's the better matchup?
I mean, Wilder's the better matchup in terms of Fury winning, but I'm saying the things that Anthony Joshua don't do well could also help Fury with Joshua. Like it can bode well for him. I just see him hurting Anthony Joshua, and then he gonna like just maul his ass, lean on him.
I don't that particular strategy. I don't think that would be a good look for Fury to do. I think he would use his reach and his speed more against Anthony Joshua instead of fighting on the inside. For me, if you fight on the inside or fight up close, you're giving Joshua the opportunity to land bigger shots on you. And I don't think that he would want to do that against Anthony Joshua, given Joshua's power behind his hooks and uppercuts. I'd rather have him, move around the ring, do the feints, throw those jabs, whether it's in the orthodox or southpaw stance, and then just try to, methodically break down Anthony Joshua until he does get tired, then step it up. But as far as like trying to get in there and try to tie up or maul Joshua, I don't think he would be able to do that. Joshua is going to be too big for that.
So I agree. He does it at a certain point. I was saying what you were saying, which is he does the mauling once Joshua gets tired, and he sort of, how Usyk kind of could have cranked it up, but he didn't go to the next level. Like he did, but he didn't. Like round 11 and 12 and stuff, he did. But what I'm saying, imagine Tyson Fury doing that in round 10, 11, and 12. You think Anthony Joshua gonna get out of that fight if Fury is cruising and he cranked that shit up to the next gear, and Anthony Joshua's still on this gear and his gas is ciphering out the back? You think Anthony Joshua gonna get out of that match with tall 7-foot Fury? leaning on him, doing everything that makes a man tired, even more tired, it'll be a late stoppage.
It depends on when Joshua starts to tire over the course of that fight. If it's like, around the 6th or 7th round, then Fury will try to implement, leaning on him and try to, extract more oxygen out of Joshua, then try to finish him in rounds, 9 and 10 or 11. But if it's a little bit later, then I think that he would try to increase his offensive output against Anthony Joshua and try to overwhelm him that way instead of like trying to maul him, grab and hold, try to do uppercuts in that way and, try to do body shots and that type of stuff. I think that it would happen. It depends on when he kind of like sees the activity of Anthony Joshua slow down over the course of that fight, if it potentially happens. But
I agree with you. I agree.
So I just think that Fury is just somebody that has the number of intangibles that makes him, have an advantage against every fighter that's currently there in the heavyweight division right now. And I really don't see a fighter out there that could potentially beat him. Like not Joshua, not Usyk, not Joe Joyce, or anybody that could potentially come up. So for me, I think it's for Fury. If he fights Usyk and Joshua and beats them both, that's it for him. That's it. There's really nothing else that
he should definitely retire.
Yeah, he should definitely retire. Like he's beating all the top guys of his era. So it's like, what's the point?
The one thing that I will say, when they actually do make these documentaries about these guys, they're gonna treat Fury like he a god in a sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They gonna kind of immortalize him.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, to an extent, he did it for himself. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it came off of Wilder's back, of course. But I mean, he's the best guy, as you said. I can't argue with what you're saying. He's the best guy of all the crop of heavyweights, and it ain't no guys that's currently up there that's in his purview that'll beat him.
Yeah.
I mean, what can you do?
About it is that he would have the opportunity to do what a lot of those fighters in the previous few years or couple decades, like going back to the 90s, weren't necessarily able to do, I would say, in a sense, is fight all of the top guys pretty much at or around the time that they were at their prime. So only exception is maybe Vladimir Klitschko, because he was like in the back end of his career or whatnot. But, fighting Deontay Wilder when he's undefeated, he would potentially fight Alexander Usyk when he's undefeated. He'd fight Anthony Joshua when, he's, still there active as a, potential top heavyweight contender and being a former 2-time unified heavyweight champion. Like, you really don't see stuff like that happening in the heavyweight division, ever since, the days of Bo Holyfield, Tyson, Lewis, Foreman, Moore. Like, you really don't see that.
And he'll have Klitschko on his record.
And the main difference is, even in the 90s, you really didn't see like all of those guys fight each other. You didn't see Lewis fight Bo or Moore or Foreman. You didn't see, Mike Tyson fight Riddick Bowe. So you had some of those instances where you could have had big matches or big fights happening in the 90s, but it just didn't, materialize. Here, you could have Tyson Fury potentially fighting all of those guys and beating all of them. So that could add a little bit more to his overall legacy as a heavyweight fighter there. So you do have that. So I guess, with that being said, that kind of like covers it all here in September 5th episode, Labor Day episode of the Boxing Source Radio Show. Thank everyone for tuning in here live. Of course, it's going to be available through Anchor.fm or iHeartRadio or, Amazon Music or, Spotify or whatever you use to listen to podcasts. It'll be available. But thanks to Terrell for checking in. Thanks to the Boxing Academic for checking in. Thanks to NVO for checking in. Thanks for Clever for checking in. Thanks for Gusto for checking in. Thanks for YSN for checking in, and all those that were there in the live conversation. And like I said, at the end of every show, folks, the point of boxing is hit, not get hit, not to stand and trade. On that note, folks, I'm out. Have a good evening, everybody.
Later.